Hey everyone, thank you for joining. This is Manifesting Love and Light. I am Rachel Jensen. Today we have on Sydney Ward, and I'm going to hand the mic over to her real quick so she can really share with you who she is and what her work is meant to do in this life. But I'll give her a quick intro. So here we go. Sydney Ward of Lake Anima Wellness is an energy healer and intuitive guide that uses multiple modalities like Reiki, tarot, crystals, and meditation, and focuses on practical self-care to reduce stress, improve energy, and create hope. When you sent me that, I was thinking, because I asked people to, how do you like to be introduced, right? Because people, there's things all over the board, and even sometimes it's difficult to find a bio on the website. And it was so like clear and concise. I was like, oh shit, that's good. Because when people ask me who I am, I'm like, like I have my license in acupuncture, and then I do other stuff. Sometimes it's Reiki, sometimes it's this. I love what you wrote. It's fantastic. And Sydney and I met at an event through an organization called Blooded Wellness. And we were both vendors. And right before the event started, like a few of us just huddled together, and we were just like, whoop. Then we started chatting about all this stuff. And I really loved her energy and was pulled in towards what she does for the collective. And so I really wanted to have her on. And then I just asked, everybody, like, what do you want to share? And she, so energy, meditation, and tarot are like her wheelhouses, right? She does Reiki. So she's going to bring us through maybe like a guide. Again, we just go with the flow here. So if we don't exactly get to everything I say we're going to, oh well, that happened. But what we're planning on doing is Sydney's going to bring us through a guided meditation. We'll talk about COVID. I like to get everybody's view on what the hell is going on right now. Everybody sees what's going on slightly different. We all have our own lenses. That's one of the great things about doing interviews. It opens my eyes up to other people's situations in life. Like, how are people handling this? How are they viewing this? And then, hopefully it helps you guys too to see the world through other people's eyes. And I think that's one of the beautiful gifts that we're giving right now, going through a worldwide pandemic. What else did I want to say? Oh, and then pulling cards. I don't think I mentioned that. So she does tarot. I'm not even sure if that's the right way to say it. Does tarot? She can let us know. She's being quiet right now because I asked her to, because I don't want the screen toggling back and forth. Because I haven't figured out that setting. So yeah, I think that's the agenda. So if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. And if you hear that scratching in the background, that is my dog. I can't get him to stop. He's digging somewhere. All right, Sydney, I'll hand it over to you. Who are you?
Hi, what a big question. Who are you? So yeah, I do stuff and things having to do with energy and healing. My path and my practice that I share with other people is really informed by my personal practice. I have a chronic illness, and prior to getting my diagnosis, I was on this particular path to corporate America, and I was very comfortable with that path and was into it. And as I headed on that path post-diagnosis, I was like, this is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And there were, at the time, like the big thing that was the thing that I could still do with my body was yoga. And I joke, but it's kind of not a joke, that yoga is a gateway drug for like all these other interesting practices. And all these other self-care practices that we don't always get access to, at least not then. I feel like now it's been a lot of these things, a lot of the work that I do is starting to bubble up in the collective consciousness so that more people are aware of it and familiar with it. There are still, a lot of questions and misconceptions about tarot, a lot of questions about energy work that, kind of we're still all working through together, but Yeah, and I really appreciate what you said about my intro because I've been working on it. Because you know, even just now, right? I'm describing who I am, and it's like this rambling story that starts like very far away. And that's what the people that I work with kept telling me, like, people kept telling me I needed to refine. And what they meant was, because I was teaching yoga and meditation, and I was pursuing energy work, and I did some work with crystals, and I was reading tarot cards, and it was like this list of ands of all these different modalities that I work in. And people are like, well, which one do you want to be known for? You need to refine. And when I tried to do that, it felt wrong. It was like, this isn't right. Like, I use all these tools for a reason. I share all of these tools for a reason, and they do fit together and work together. And so I was like, okay, I'm not refining. I'm not sure I'm in love with that word, but I'm not going to focus in on just one modality, because that's not the purpose of my work and the purpose of my path here. So what I need to do is focus in on what I'm actually doing. What am I actually doing for people, and what does this work do for people? And so hence because what I talk about the most with people is stress, energy, and intuition, and or clarity. Those kind of, for me, live in the same little hut. And that's, oh, my cat decided to come downstairs and sing. I apologize if
Oh,
she's
is that who that is?
yes.
Oh, that's so precious. Oh, I miss cats.
Squeaker, or well, we call her Squeaker. That's not actually her name. Her name's Luna, but her voice box doesn't work quite right. And so she
Oh,
like squawks.
oh, if she wants to come on and talk, I would love that, to have her come on and talk with
She can just come on
us.
over.
Seriously, grab her and pull her up. I'd love to hear
Like,
if she comes through it.
she hates being held. It is like terror for her, which we've only had her and her mom, we've only had them since October. So, and they lived outside in a cat colony before that. So they're still kind of getting used to um, life indoors and with people who aren't going anywhere. But she is rubbing on me. She never does this. She's like, been over here pretty much since we started talking. She'll like run off and sing and then come back and rub around on my legs and stuff. She's very
Yes.
sweet.
Well,
Right.
thank you, Squeaker, for bringing your energy to us.
Yeah.
My dog will come over every once in a while when I'm doing like Zooms and things like that, and he's not a very cuddly dog either. He's a Shih Tzu. They're like, I'll come to you. Don't touch me. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Fuck the thing I said before. I can't. I just talk.
It's so hard.
I know. It's super hard. So I just thought, screw it. The Zoom,
Although,
if anybody, yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's sort of similar to when you're recording a podcast, like, because you do when you do the and like have that like vocal responders that you have when you're in conversation with
Yeah.
people. That's like part of our active listening skill set, right? That's like, oh yeah, I'm listening to
Yep.
you and processing what you're saying. But like when you're recording a podcast, you're supposed to like shut those off because it muddies the
Really?
noise. Yeah, like you don't want to say those so that everything that's coming through is clear, but then you still have the visual of like but it's very challenging.
Did you have a podcast?
No, but I've been interviewed for a couple podcasts, which is fun. I love being.
Oh, awesome. Yes, me too. So thank you for sharing with us who you are. And one of the things that I got from what you were saying was this need to refine. Is so funny that you mentioned that, because I've been going through that too. My business name is Acupuncture with Rachel, and yes, I'm an acupuncturist, and that's like what I have my degree in. But like I said before, and there's all these other things that I do, and I battle with that every day. That's in my business name, and that's what we were taught in school, like to be super specific. And like chiropractors have to have chiro of chiropractic in their name. They have to. We don't have to have acupuncture, but I did it on a whim because it was there, like the handle was there on Instagram. We had the website, and I have a mentor that went through that same thing, and she shares with me often that she feels like people try to put her in a box and try to identify her. And she wrote like on an Instagram post one day, like, let them try to figure out, who do you think I am? You figure it out. Like I am me, and I don't feel the need to put myself in a few words or to define myself in this way, because it's always changing, right? So I hear you. I hear you there in that struggle of who we feel we are and who everybody else wants us to be, maybe,
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
easier
So
when
thank you
you
for
can
sharing.
define people. It's easier when you can say, this person fits in
Right.
that category.
We
This
like
person
black and
fits
white.
in that category. And it's like, okay, and now I have this stratus of how I define the people around me. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But it just, it makes it a little simpler. But when you're not, very few of us are actually like siloed into one, like this is my whole identity, this is, and even like with business, this is my whole business. Usually there's a like a gradient and borrowing and holding from these other things that seem disconnected but really aren't.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure a lot of you watching can completely relate to that. And I hope that I like what you mentioned, that there is no good or bad, right? It's everybody's own journey. And when I hear people talking about this, it gives me permission to not need to do certain things, or to get rid of the shoulds, and just be okay with, I'm not quite sure who I feel like I am today. I'm not sure if I'm more acupuncture, if I'm more Chinese medicine, if I'm more esoterical, if I'm more crystals or Reiki or whatever the fuck I decide I want to make up.
Well, and I think for healers
Yeah.
too, like anybody, whether it's in like the more modern medicine or modalities that are more accepted in modern medicine, or it's more in these like traditional therapies, like it's, I think we show up trying to serve. And so the reason I think sometimes that a lot of us have, seems like we have like feet in so many different places, is because it's all part of service. Like it's all part of this service and trying to raise wellness for everyone around us and for our communities. And in that regard, like how much sense does it make to be a healer who's like, this is the only thing that I do? And you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And yeah, so I think there's a piece there that's just like, how you wake up in the morning is, yes, what you need for yourself, but as a healer, maybe also what the collective needs from you that day. Like,
Yes, interesting. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna think about that for a while. Right. Like yes, absolutely. Like who I show up to today might have everything to do, it probably does have everything to do with how can I best be of service right now for me and like my community.
mhm.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. This is already good. We haven't even really started.
Good juicy stuff right off the
Okay,
bat.
so just good juicy stuff. Okay, so I made a few notes. That's good. All right, so last time I ended with these questions, but I feel like I want to start with these questions. So let's dive into the questions, and then we'll go into your offerings. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay, so these are a list of questions that I ask everybody. And it is this whole manifesting love and light is in existence because of COVID-19. And I know there's a subconscious sometimes battle of talking about it, saying COVID or saying the coronavirus, because we're so saturated with it. And so I'm giving myself and people on here and everybody who is in this web of this YouTube channel with us, permission to just talk about it as it feels good to you, right? So if you're saturated with COVID and you don't want to hear that word again, then that's okay. You can shut us off. We'll be talking about other things. But I totally get it if that makes you cringe and you're like, why does she keep saying that? Like, yes, what's here? And I think there's important medicine in naming what's going on, right? And leaning into the fact that this does exist because we're all going through this together. And I feel like if I don't name it, it's the elephant in the room. And I'm not very good at ignoring things. So for me, it feels good to simply name it. And these 3 questions are, when I ask these to you, Sydney, it is, it's in reflection of what's going on now, right? Okay, so the first one is, what are your favorite activities right now? So if you're
Ooh, good.
watching this outside of COVID times, we are cooped up, not doing much. We're physical distancing. And so I'd love to know how are people spending their time?
Time, all of them, all of the times. I
Yeah, yes,
so
right, because it doesn't exist.
right. Rediscovering walks as medicine has been really great. That's been, getting out and getting fresh air has been important. I do not totally understand at this moment how that's going to be affected by Minnesota's now going into shelter in place on Friday. And so
Yeah.
I think strictly speaking, we're not supposed to leave our house unless we're walking a dog or something. I can.
Yeah, I heard that you basically have to have a good reason if you get stopped, like when you're in high school.
Right,
Are you going to the bathroom? Then no, go back to your
right. Do you have a
classroom.
pass?
Remember that?
Do you
Oh
have
my
a
God.
pass to be outside of your
All
home?
passes? Yes. Right.
Um,
Oh, I hated that. It made me, oof.
so but that's something I've loved doing since we went into like the very, not strict, but went into social distancing. That's been really, really, really good for me. And even just the first couple of days that we were at home, we just opened all the windows. It wasn't even like warm. I think it was maybe like 40 degrees. We just opened all the windows and
I do that all the time, and my husband gets so angry at me.
no, it's amazing. Luckily,
Do it
Thomas
all the
likes it
time.
too, so it works out.
Yeah. Oh.
But coming back to what's it called? To just like spending time in silence, which sounds so weird. But it's like I feel like a lot of us, myself included, are so prone to always filling the silence with whether it's music or for me it's usually like podcasts and audiobooks and even if I just put something like a show on my phone or on my laptop in the corner while I'm making dinner, like just stuff like that. Even um, driving to and from the grocery store and like rediscovering, those are all ways that we put our energy outside of ourselves or like have somewhere else for it to be siphoning to, which again is not inherently a bad thing. Podcasts are great. I love them. But I've been really appreciating like relearning comfort in silence. I'm not sure of like a good way of saying that, but just coming back to,
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
yeah, and it's just like being with yourself and your experience and the sounds that are around you, expected and unexpected, and like being really tuned into your senses and the way things feel, especially when we can't interact with other people as much or at all. For those of us who live with partners or roommates, I think it's a little bit of a different situation, right? Because we're quarantined together. But like even just like this, right? Like just feeling how it feels for my fingertips to run down my palm, like things like that, reconnecting to touch in that way makes it feel a lot less lonely. um which is something, yeah, that's been really, really nice. And then I just love a bath. Like this
I
has
took
been
a
a great
2-hour
time
bath
for me to
this
get.
morning.
Yes, it is so nice to give myself permission to be like, you know what, I actually don't have to leave. So if I want to, I can take a bath every day. Like
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can do a little bit of work, I can just hang out, I can meditate, I can do Reiki on myself, and I can do this every day. And that's been so nice. This little like dose of I guess like luxury almost, trying to infuse things in that feel really like I can't usually do this, and taking advantage of this time to be able to do something that I can't usually, in this case something that I deeply enjoy, is so nice.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are my favorites.
I love the bath. I mean, I love that all, right? Taking the time. I have been doing every single thing that you mentioned, except the walks. Actually, I haven't gone out for walks a lot. But taking the time to be in silence, I noticed that I too was, um, you know, being an acupuncturist, I felt the need to stay up to date on everything because, how am I gonna treat my patients when I do go back into doing needles, and I need to know all this stuff. So I was listening to every podcast and signing up for all the Zooms. There's a bunch of like acupuncture organizations in the world, and so everybody is doing webinars. And then I go to sweep our house that I hadn't done in a week. And I'm an avid sweeper, and I immediately went to my phone to put on Brene Brown's new podcast. And I had this visceral reaction of, I cannot listen to anything else right now. And so I decided very consciously, I have to just sweep in silence. And that's what I'm going to do. And I did it. And it felt so good. It felt like, audio like pollution was gone. And I could just be. I didn't even need to like make any sense out of my thoughts or go deep. I just needed to like walk away from a crowd and a really loud conversation. Just needed to take a step back and take a sip of my water and just hang a little bit. And then the bathing, yeah, I love baths. That's where I read and I watch YouTube informational videos and listen to podcasts. Oh yeah, I sent Sydney a message this morning when I was in my bath. And so I was holding my phone like this. And I was just talking, Instagram, you can record your voice, right? So I was talking, and my husband walks in, and he looks at me like, I have my phone right here, and I'm completely naked, and Chris doesn't like me being naked with anybody but him. I walk around naked, and he can't stand it. And so to him, he thinks that I'm video chatting somebody because I do this stuff all the time. And he's like this, and I'm like, oh God, do I keep recording and like get through this as he's just staring at me? And I got so pissed, I finally just said, this is audio. She can't see me, Chris. And then he's like, oh God. And then he walks away. That's what I do in my bath. Yeah. So I'm with you. Baths are so relaxing, and it's the water element. And I'm sure you can talk about this. Water is so comforting and holding and nurturing and cleansing, right? So it's such a fantastic way to start the day. Mm-hmm. Or to do at night. Okay. Question number 2. What are your favorite resources right now? Like who you following on social media, any books that you just read? It doesn't have to be COVID related, right? Like maybe you are super into like this Netflix show right now. What are you doing for entertainment?
Yeah, so
resources.
Yeah, we'll focus on the resources side. I consume maybe a little too much media, so I have lots of opinions about lots of shows. But there's one local gal, Dr. Jessie. She's a chiropractor, and since this all started, her and her team have been posting these like really easy stretching home videos on their Instagram and their Facebook. Her business name is Chiro for Moms, and I love her energy, and I love just like her her attitude towards everything, but also those videos have been really helpful. They've been really great, and I think just like that's a great way that she's serving her community, and I love that. I've been very intentionally trying to shut out really any any noise related to coronavirus. So like I go straight to the CDC website. When I want to know what's going on, I check Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC, and that's it. Obviously I see all the other stuff coming in and going through, but I try not to sink myself into it too much, just because they're all variations on what those 2 resources are saying for me. So that's kind of like, that's a practice.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Where it's like, okay,
I have to get in there just for a second. And I think we're a little delayed. So if you're watching this right now, just know that we're probably dealing with some technical difficulties. John Mayer, I love him, and I know some people have like a big visceral like, no, I hate him. which I used to, but I love him now. And he does these Sunday night Instagram lives, and they're called Current Mood because he's so cute and clever. And he's doing one now called, I can't remember, but he was talking about that. He was talking about, moving forward, we're going to keep getting, he was talking about like anxiety and how we're consuming all of this stuff. But what's really happening is we just keep reconsuming stuff, right? Like one day it's, a certain business shut down, right? And then we were like, whoa, something shut down. Okay, and then we can settle. And then the next day it's like school shut down, and then we're going, school shut down. And then we settle down. And the next day it's, bowling alleys and malls and all this stuff shut down, right? It's all the same thread, right? And yet we keep getting pinged with the same information. And so that, to point to what you're saying, he explained it in a much more eloquent way than I am able to do right now, but I hope I'm getting the point across that, we are in the situation and, things are shut down, right? So we're kind of at the baseline. And what you're saying and what I am echoing is to give yourself permission to not be like re-pinged all the time, to let your central nervous system just say, yeah, things are shut down. I get that. A library might shut down here, and your vet's groomers might shut down over there. It's all the same thread, right? So if we can just recognize things are shut down, got it, then we're able to more, remain a little level, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right. Because like you're saying, that constant ping, that's like putting us in a state of chronic stress, chronic anxiety, which is terrible for your body, terrible for your immune system, terrible for your mental health, terrible for your vital organs. Like there's nothing good about it. And especially for us.
And yeah, lowers your immunity too.
Yeah, and it doesn't serve a functional purpose for us because there's nothing for us to do with that information. It's not like, oh, there's a threat, run, right? Because there's no like running from it. It's just like you said, it's all the same threat, and we just kind of like whoop, give ourselves some space from that. And let's see, I am at the beginning of a book right now called The Medicine Woman, and it's by Lucy Pierce.
Oh yeah.
And it is, I started it a while ago, and then the first chapter gave me homework, and I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for homework. So
I've done that too.
So I was like, okay.
I don't feel like going back to school. Fuck this book. I'll pick you up 2 months from now.
Exactly. So I am picking it back up again, wading back in, and it's this amazing book about it's about illness in women, and specifically chronic illness in women, which is something that I am interested in, being one of those people, and how the world over our modern medical systems, and particularly male doctors, really don't listen to women and don't listen to them when they're in pain or experiencing certain symptoms that they can't readily explain. And often we get told like, oh, it's in your head, or it's just stress, which stress isn't helping, but it's rare that it's just stress. And even though all of the evidence or all the things we know about women, namely that we have a higher pain tolerance than our male counterparts, suggests that if we're showing up in enough pain to be like at the doctor's office, that it's pretty significant, especially if you're talking about a woman who is married and has children. It's like, they're not going to take time out of their day, as horrible as it sounds, they're not going to take time out of their day to go take care of themselves just because of like, oh, it hurts. Like they're in a lot of pain and like often get kind of shunted to the side. And so the whole book is really about that ecosystem and how it hasn't been serving us. And then I think the later part of the book gets into some more like how the model for that is totally flipped when we're looking at alternative medicine, or I like to call it traditional medicine. And that in those spaces, that's like a big reason why we're being drawn into those spaces, is because there we're accepted and treated and believed. And that's sort of like this weird dichotomy that exists. And anyway, it's really interesting. So far, I really love it. She has a lot of very intelligent things to say. And I do love, as someone who relies on like Western medicine, or what I call modern medicine, to live, like, I believe in it. I think it's great. But I do think that it doesn't have to be either or. Like, modern medicine and traditional medicine are not at odds with each other. They can work together. You know, we can seek treatment for things that we can't just like magically cure. And then we can use other methods of managing the side effects and symptoms while we're undergoing that therapy or that treatment, whether it's short-term or lifelong. And she takes a similar approach, that it's not like modern medicine is bad. It's just like, we have this weird societal thing that's happening where like women are going years and even decades without being diagnosed with like serious chronic illnesses. And it's not that the system is bad. It's just that societally we need to do some big healing to make this work a little bit better for everyone. So that's a book that I'm reading and that I'm into. There's another book I've got on my shelf that I've like read the summary of it in other places, but it's called Jailbreaking the Goddess. And it's sort of breaking out of the triple goddess model of Mother, Maiden, and Crone, which not everyone relates to, and breaks it out into, my brain is, it's either 5 or 7. I want to say it's 5 different archetypes that are not so like narrowly defined by our reproductive status. So really interesting, great new approach to that kind of paradigm. And I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper and dive a little deeper into that. And then there's another woman. Sorry, you asked me like, oh, what are some resources? And I'm like, here's my 6-point list.
Keep going.
There's another woman. Her name is Jacqueline Fisher. She goes by Jack, which I honestly think is the cutest thing in the world. And her Instagram handle is Jack, JACQ Fish, FISCH. And she's actually like a writing coach. She's a copywriter and helps coach business owners in writing copy for their websites, their blogs, their emails, like all kinds of different stuff. And I'm part of her community for that. But the stuff that she's been sharing in the current context about like what she's experiencing, about how she's showing up, about what like what revelations are coming to the surface for her, I think have been like very poignant and just amazing. So I've been really enjoying getting to see more of that from her. Like 2 that really stand out to me, or that I still think about every day since she posted them, is one, like, this is really showing us how unsustainable our current systems and our current way of life is. And 2, the other one was like, if there's anything that this time is giving me right now, if there's anything that I must do right now, it's to show up to take care of myself, like, so that I can keep serving people. And those 2 messages and like revelations on her behalf, and some more of them have been unfolding, but it's been really, really beautiful to watch that. And she's providing additional free resources for business owners, and she does really specialize with small business owners like us. So that's been really nice and refreshing to see. And that it isn't all like panic and fear, but is really like, okay, like, yes, we're here, but here's what we're learning. Are you seeing it too? And I love that. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. We have a list of resources that we're keeping for this community. So those are going to go right on that list. Very much for that stuff. I love it. Okay, and then number 3, we've already kind of touched on this. What are you learning from this experience? What wounds/triggers are coming up for you?
Yeah, I'm in a unique situation. So my condition is related to my lungs. So I have compromised lungs, and I am like, this is an unpopular opinion in some of my communities, and that's okay. But like every year, I'm really passionate about everybody getting a flu shot. Like, I'm like, everybody needs to do it. And if you're going to be in my space, you need to do it, because the flu will land me in the hospital and could kill me. And so like, that's something for me that I'm like, okay, so every year during the flu season, when I go out into the world, it's like another day when someone else's um, choices might land me in the hospital and kill me. And it's a reality that I and a lot of people with chronic illness live with 100% of the time, 24/7, regardless of what's going on in the rest of the world. And so as this stuff started coming up, I was having a really hard time, because I was getting frustrated. I was getting really frustrated. I was like, oh, okay, so we take this seriously, but like not this other thing. And it's not just the flu. There's like so many things, so many different conditions and different triggers for those conditions and different vulnerabilities. But it's like, oh, okay, so, and I was getting really frustrated about like, everybody's taking this seriously. Everyone is panicking about this. Everyone is like, how do we protect our community? How come we're not like this? Like, I'm getting emotional. I haven't verbally processed this yet. But like, why are we not like this all the time? Why are we not always doing our very best, doing everything that we possibly can to protect everyone in our community? Why is this a mindset that it takes a global high profile pandemic for us to tap into? And I think it's really easy. A lot of the other times people are like, oh, I really care about our community. I really care about people. And not that they're not telling the truth, but it was so frustrating to like see that and be like, oh, now this is a big deal. And now we're concerned about spreading disease to people who might not survive it. And so working through that for the first, like when it first was kind of coming over to the United States and first couple cases show up in Minnesota where we're based, that was like, I just had a lot of frustration and anger that we're not always taking better care of each other. And in that respect, I wasn't able to step past that to see like, okay, but what's the different medicine of the situation, or to see like what is actually happening here. I couldn't even really process what was happening. And people who know me and care about me and love me were asking me like, are you safe? Are you okay? Or do you need anything? And all this stuff. And I was like, I really appreciate you asking. It makes my heart warm that you care so much about me, that I'm one of the first people that you thought of to check in with. But like, my life is exactly the same. So this is like too much. And I was just getting a little overwhelmed. And I totally checked out from social media, from interacting with people. I wasn't even like texting my friends back, just like had to take a big breath for a few days to like process through that and see what that was really all about. And a big part of it was like, I'm pretty comfortable with my own mortality. It's the nature of the beast. And what I hadn't counted on was like how much I took for granted that other people were also comfortable with my mortality, if that kind of makes sense. Like,
yeah.
if I'm a stranger,
That's a big one.
Then they're like fine with it. More or less. I mean, I think that's like a little bit of a big overstatement, but that was like, that is what was kind of like bubbling up in me, was like, oh, okay. So this is like, yeah, it was like about how, like my interactions with my communities and how I had defined them, and then seeing people act differently and being like, oh, okay, so you can act differently for this. And just like that piece, that what felt like a big imbalance to me, was like really keeping me from processing what was really happening. So then I stepped out of that and did, my work, my self-care, my healing, gave myself as much space as I needed to process and to consume. Because I believe in coming from a place of knowledge. I believe in coming from a place of like being educated on something. And so then I was doing my due diligence on the coronavirus, on COVID, and seeing like, okay, what is this? Why does this matter? Why does our response matter? How does it? And like putting together that narrative for myself. And what, through that, this has such a long incubation period. In some cases, it can live on services for up to 28 days. People are testing positive with literally 0 symptoms. And that's what makes it so different. And it is serious and it is dangerous. And we should be doing the best that we can to like take care of other people and take care of our communities. And the thing that's still I'm grappling with is that uncertainty of what the future is going to look like. Because, there's this question that keeps ringing in the back of my mind, like, when does it end? When does it stop? Because we have, Minnesota and some other places are coming into shelter in place this week that weren't previously. And there are other places I know that have been for at least a week at this point. And, that's good, right? We're flattening the curve. We're trying not to overload the healthcare system so that people who need help can get it. But like, where is the end of this? When does it stop? And we don't know, because we don't know anything. We don't know how long it's going to take for this to run its course, even with all of the preventative protective measures that we're taking. And we don't have, as a society, we don't have, or even as a global community, a point of reference for something like this with the technology of communication and delivering information that we currently have. So we're able to deliver communication a lot faster. We're able to like all hear the same message at more or less the same time instantaneously as it's delivered, and receive the same guidelines. But we really don't have a clear understanding or like historical reference point for this is exactly how long it's going to take. If we all just stay in our homes for 4 weeks, then everything will be fine and we'll move on. Because as long as one person is sick, there's risk for more people becoming sick. So it's like this kind of weird nebulous space that's like makes it so cloudy in the future, like makes the future so unclear and uncertain. And that, very human response to that, I do not enjoy that. So I'm trying so hard. This weekend in particular, I've decided to like dedicate again to more medicine for myself, to work through that uncertainty and work through comfort with that, and to let go of attachment of there being an end, to let go. I mean, at some point there will be, but to let go of needing to put a timeline on it, to let go of that need to know. So yeah, anyway, long answer.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I was taking notes at the things that were landing for me, and I've got, because I would like to have a somewhat coherent response. Um, and, something that kept coming up for me was another topic we were talking about behind the scenes, but talking about is mirroring and shadow work and that stuff. And I kept hearing that with what you were saying. In the beginning, you were talking about, I think, basically, well, first of all, anger. And that is something that I see across the board people experiencing, right? And that's a very common trigger, right? When we're not feeling safe and when we are fearful and we have learned to stack on layers of armor, eventually we get to an irritable, angry armor where we just, our lid flips. Because to dig deep and to actually say, you know what, I'm scared, I'm fearful, is tough and it's vulnerable, right? So yeah, you, me, and everybody is angry, right? That was really the first symptom, so to speak, of COVID-19 that I had. Super angry, and I became really curious about that. And because I do so much work in my own triggers and identifying those, Because let me tell you, I was the kid who went into therapy, and every fucking therapist would say, yeah, so you're a little angry, just like matter of fact. And I'm like, what? You're angry. You're angry, like totally oblivious to my own anger. Yes, just so yes, I feel you. And this talking about it kind of feels like a social justice conversation. And that's new to me, is that, yeah. So I'm going to be hesitant and try to be careful with my words, because I'm not well versed in talking about this. This is something that I have, I think, been so hidden from in my past. And it's just coming up now where I'm becoming curious and interested in this shit, because it's just coming up for whatever reason. I hear this a lot with, and I think this is okay usage of the term Black Indigenous people of color, right? Where I've been in a few calls, Zoom calls, where they're the only person of color, and one of them expressed their opinion very much like yours, but just from a different lens of, I've experienced a lot of the fear I hear everybody as a cultural whole talking about, and I'm fine. I'm like, this is just another day for me, and she expressed her own, what she's felt from probably day one of, everything that people who are in the minority, right, feel. And me being, I'm not this blonde, but I am blonde, Caucasian, female embodied, right? I hope I'm saying this all correct, where I'm not offending anyone. I have woken up, at least in the past year, to how much privilege I have, and realizing this is the huge thing that COVID is giving us, right? It's part of the medicine to all collectively feel the hurt and the pain that people with chronic illness feel, and Indigenous people feel. And so I love that you brought that up. And God, that's just, we could spend a whole hour on that, right? Like, and I'm the one that's going to ask questions, because I'm not, what's that?
I said just that, right? Like that's a whole can of worms, right? But the one thing you did say, like her expressing that it's just like, this is just another day. Like that is something I found myself saying repeatedly, because I had anger, yes, but I wasn't in like full panic because it's like, this is just the way my life is. Is this not what it's like for you? Like, and just that, yeah, another day.
Yes. Oh, I was talking, I may have mentioned this somewhere along, I don't think it was on the last YouTube channel, so I hope I'm not repeating myself. Or not the last channel, the last video. One of my friends is a social worker, and we do Zoom chats every few days, just to, because that's what we're doing now. And she brought up, her world of being a social worker. And she said, I said, how is life for you? Like, what does your world look like? She said, there is, people I'm working with who are stuck at home now with their abusers. I didn't think of that at all. Oof. Until she said it. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big one. I did not think about that either. And that makes me that hurts my heart. That hurts my heart big.
I know. Right. And the realization of it, walking in somebody else's shoes is part of it. And then there's the other part of, of deep shame that can come with, oh my God, why didn't I not think of that? Right. I have been walking with, wool over my eyes. I wasn't even aware of that. And then, we could be filled with so much shame that we didn't think of that. Right. And so, if you're listening to this and you are feeling shameful of, I didn't think about, minorities in general, right? Because maybe you aren't one. Holding space for yourself that it's okay that your eyes aren't open to that, and now they are, right? So what are you going to do with that? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
No
Maybe
better,
I'll have you on later to talk
right?
about just that. Right. Yeah,
Right.
and we perpetuate this cycle when we're filled with shame, and we just stay stuck in the shame. It's a loop. And so one of the ways out of that loop is to say, got it. Okay, I've learned some new information today, and I'm going to let that download and sink in for a little bit. And then just stay curious, right? You don't have to go marching in the streets. You can't right now. So
Right.
just stay
Not an
curious.
option.
And you're right. Yeah, your energy is now open to seeing the world in a different way. And sometimes that's the drop in your ocean. That's all it takes. And now you're going to start seeing things differently. So, oh, I love that. Okay, so with the last about, I think we have roughly 15 minutes left if we're going to stay within 60. Why don't we, well, thank you. I want to acknowledge that everything you shared with us. Thank you so much. That's going to be so juicy. And I know some of the people watching this, that's going to be the first time they've heard any of that, right? So, okay, let's get on to your offerings. I'm so excited for this stuff. So I'll hand the mic over to you, and you just, do your thing.
Do the thing. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick 3-card reading for the collective, and really for anyone who shows up and sees this. Energy and energy work doesn't recognize space and time. Like those aren't real constructs for energy. So whoever is showing up and seeing this and receiving this message, it is for them. It is for you. And my intention with these 3 cards is just to pull up some information for us about how we can best take care of ourselves and honor ourselves, and do the work that we need to do during this time. Whether you're watching this now during the COVID-19 situation, or if you come across this video later, it's still for you. And then I think we'll close with a brief guided meditation just to sort of embody some of that medicine. Does that sound good, Rachel? You can just give me a nod.
Yes. Yeah, I put myself on mute so my mm-hms weren't getting in the way. Yes, absolutely. It's your show. You take it.
Okay. So what I'm doing is calling in my guides and the guides of all those who need this medicine to pull forward information that we're ready to receive and that's actionable. Okay. So we've got 3 cards. Oh, sorry. I don't usually have this emotional of a reaction. I'm totally fine. I'm not crying. You're crying. It's fine. Okay, I should probably tell you what's there. So the 3 cards that I drew are the Empress, the Queen of Wands, and the Star. And you might notice they're all beautiful. And there are definitely cards in the tarot that directly address shadow work and some deep, dark, scary parts of our soul. And these really aren't them. And so the Empress is, she's this beautiful goddess. She's our Queen of Queens, Mother of Mothers kind of figure, and is really a symbol of feminine wisdom and feminine energy. She really speaks to abundance and the creative, not just in terms of reproductive, but the creative, innovative force of feminine energy. And we all contain both feminine and masculine energy. We all have that in us, both sides of ourselves, regardless of your sex or your gender. Feminine energy and masculine energy is something that exists within all of us. And this is really speaking to me as now is the time for us to embrace feminine wisdom, which really is like getting back to your roots, getting back into more traditional medicine, folk medicine, and really like taking the situation for what it is and allowing your creativity to be the guiding leading force in how you respond. The next card that I drew is the Queen of Wands. And she is this like gorgeous woman in this fun sundress. She's crowned by a sunflower. She's got a little black cat dancing around her feet. She's in these gorgeous rays of sun. And she's a connector. I always think of her as kind of the hostess with the mostess. And even though that's very much part of her, like how she connects people and how she brings people together is a big part of her energy, you'll notice she's alone in the photo because it's not about surrounding herself with people, like physically surrounding herself with people. It's about how she's connecting people and connecting resources. And this is you. This is you, Rachel. But it is like looking at who you know, for anybody who's watching, looking at who you know, the communities that you're a part of, and how you can draw lines for people that you know who are in need to resources and communities that will serve them. So being that connector in your community who's like, I see you're struggling with this, here's a great account to follow. I see you're struggling with this, like, here's a book that you can read. And just using the resources, information that you already have. There's nothing else you need to go learn or get. It's just using what's already in your field. And the last one, this is like, the first two were beautiful. And then when I flipped into this one, it's like the best. This is the star, and she is really about like your true north, your guiding star, your guiding light, diving into yourself to remember your core values and what you're here to do. And her, like, it's really about following your truth. But the message that the star brings, as long as we can see the star, is that everything is going to be okay. That as long as you're following that true north within yourself, that things are going to unfold in the way that they're meant to, but also in a way that like feels good and natural. And that is like, I was expecting to get some very different medicine in this reading, and that is some really beautiful stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and take a comfortable seat. If you aren't in one already, if you're in a space where it's safe and available for you, go ahead and close your eyes. Let your shoulders rest down away from your ears. Find a little length along your spine. Root down through any part of you that's connected to the floor, to the earth, to what's below you. Take a few deep breaths. Now, if there was a card that really resonated with you, if there was a single phrase that made your heart feel full, or that was resonant for you, that echoed inside you as truth, I want you to bring that to your mind, either picturing the image or the words or any other visual associations you have with that very clearly in your mind's eye. Recognize how it would feel for those words, for that image, for that message to fill you completely, to fill your mind, to fill your throat, to fill your lungs and your heart, to fill your hips, to filter down and fill your legs, your feet, to swell into the tips of your toes. That message of light, that message from our collective guides, filling you and holding you. How does that feel? What sensations are present in your body? Perhaps does it give you some space to let go of tension, to let go of effort, to release, be it emotionally, physically, mentally, resting into that light. Knowing that you are already in this light and that you can step fully up into it, embracing it, embodying it in every moment. All you have to do is guide yourself back to this place. Guide yourself back to trusting your intuition, trusting your inner voice, trusting the guides that show up for you. Bring your hands to your heart. As you feel your heartbeat, know that as you receive this medicine, you are this medicine for someone else. When you're ready, blink your eyes open and come back to us. I feel amazing.
Yeah, a little high, a little dazed. Oh shoot, I lost internet connection on my computer. I hope we're still good.
Oh no, I can hear you.
Okay, good, then we must be good. Oh, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for holding this space and for inviting me to share it with you.
For people watching and they're really curious about Sydney, how do they find you? How do they work with you? What offerings do you have,
Yeah,
especially during these times?
yeah. So I've been doing digital services since I started my business. So I'm making a return to those. My website is lakeanima.com, LAKEANAMA. I'm also really active on Instagram. My handle is Sydney_moves. Right now I have discounted distance Reiki and discounted tarot readings for anyone who wants them during this time. I also am offering pay what you can or free services for anyone who's been hospitalized, anyone who's been diagnosed with COVID, and for anyone who is completely out of work because of this. So all they need to do is message me through my Instagram or reach out to me directly another way. And I'll work with anybody who wants to receive that medicine. I'm also doing some community events. So I've hosted 2 already. They're all pay what you can. I did one for the equinox and one for the new moon, and then I'm doing another one next Wednesday, April 1st at 6 p.m. Central Time. It's just going to be a group energy healing, kind of like an extended, this is like a little teaser. The meditation and the card pulls will be doing both of those things there, as well as some other energy work and a little bit of movement. And I want it to be accessible for everyone. So I have it set up on my website for like pay what you can increments from $5 to $50. If even $5 is like too much or puts you in a place of financial discomfort, just ask me, just email me, and we can talk about trying to get you in there anyway. So that's like, I want this medicine and this community to be accessible for everybody, especially now. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and that's what I'm up to.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be checking out some of those things. So if you guys are going to be there, hopefully I'll see you on the flip side. Again, Sydney, thank you so much for showing up in this way and providing some great just thinking points for what's going on in the world right now, and even without this virus. I think this has been such a beneficial, juicy interview to just start planting the seeds. To start planting. All right, guys. Have a good day, night, morning, wherever, whatever time it is right now when you're watching this. Take care. Bye.